G'day and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. It's a chore to do this, but I've got to wade through more of Rob Llewellyn's nonsense and see how far I get through it this time. This is part two, and as I've just put up a text box, part one finished with that Ethiopian story about a couple of charges in one city showing the rest of the world how to do it, and then Rob supporting making everybody purchase EVs because that's what the government wants. Who cares what any person wants? This lets you know the kind of person that he is. He's got a mantra, and anything that supports his mantra, his particular barrow to push, he's all for that. He'll sell it to you at the drop of a hat, and ethics have gone out the window. That's how it looks like to me. So let's get going with the rest of the stuff he's got to say.
Hats off, big time. Next story. And in contrast to many ultra-rapid charges in a big city, what about a couple of charges if you live on a really remote island, somewhere out in the middle of the ocean, but are dependent on importing and burning expensive fossil fuel for energy and transport in 2025? Then you might kind of need a little bit of a nudge to get you over the line. Subaru, not really renowned for pushing electric vehicles, have done a very small but quite remarkable thing. Last year, they supported a groundbreaking trial of the world's most remote public charge points on the South Atlantic island of St. Helena, 1,200 miles off the coast of Africa. It's basically in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, proper remote. Now, I love a press release as much as the next person, but I think this is an important tiny step. The project, a collaboration between the St. Helena government, Subaru UK, and the Norwegian electric vehicle charger brand.
I'm stopping here so that you can take a look at that charger that they've added on the island. It's got to be 6 or 7 kilowatts, maybe 11 kilowatts at best, I think. It's certainly not DC charging. There's nothing fast about it. It's an AC plug. You can only get snail's pace charging with an AC charger. And up to now, I don't think I've heard him say how many chargers are on that whole island. If somebody were to research it, you would find the infrastructure would be pitiful.
EC is the latest step in the British Overseas Territories' plan to transition to sustainable power and zero emissions transport by the end of the decade. That's all good. I totally support it. It's 2025, for goodness sake.
I got to the end of it and there was no mention of how many snail's pace chargers were put on the island, how many EVs they expect to sell on the island. While he thinks it's a great idea of governments, I think it's a story not worth reporting on.
Next story. Toyota, once the biggest car company in the world with a history of making incredibly long-lasting, reliable cars, have been a little bit lackluster in the electric vehicle space. As many viewers know, they have pumped billions of dollars and huge amounts of emotional capital into convincing people that hydrogen is the future. I think they will quietly give up on that, regardless of the bullish posturing of a handful of obsessive hydrogen tech bros. But Toyota have also long struggled with the very idea of battery electric vehicles. They love hybrids, and they make them really well. I drove one for years, brilliant. But back in 2022, they launched what is arguably their first 100% electric vehicle, the the BZ4X, that was it. I've only just discovered that the BZ stands for Beyond Zero, which Toyota claims symbolizes its desire to provide customers with value that exceeds zero emissions. Well, that's very grand, fair enough. Back in 2022, they said they would be launching 7 different all-electric models under the BZ brand. But they've moved on. Now, personally, I'm looking forward to seeing what the new electric models Toyota are bringing out, because all other issues aside, they do make very good cars. So that's all very good news. But sadly, Toyota are also the car company giving the most funding to the real extremist Congress members in the USA who are doing everything they can to deny climate change and remove any restrictions on increased extraction, refining and burning of fossil fuel. And as we all know, these folks are having an absolute field day in the USA at the moment, so clearly that special funding from Toyota has really helped set the clock back. Isn't that lovely?
After watching the long Toyota rant, I think I'll either stop it at the start and just say I'm going to not comment, or I'll chop it up at least into little pieces and have to use my text boxes.
Thank you, Toyota. Next story. And another company very committed to using hydrogen fuel cells is the bus builder Wrightbus from Northern Ireland. Now, this is a company part owned by Joe Bamford, son of Lord Bamford, who is the boss of the amazing JCB company. We've featured their electric and hydrogen diggers on the Fully Charged show. Joe and his dad are very big proponents of hydrogen fuel cell technology, especially for buses. So I admit I was a bit surprised when I heard about this. In the past, they've both been quite vociferous critics of battery electric tech, and I'm fine with that if you're coming from some other form of cleaner technology. If a hydrogen fuel cell bus drives past me, I'm happy. Whereas if a diesel bus drives past me, I'm wallowing in toxic filth the next couple of minutes. However, Wrightbus have just unveiled 4 new buses, and they are all battery electric vehicles. Under the new Wright Tech brand, the company is launching a battery electric 7.5 ton truck, as well as a 6 metre and a 9 metre long electric bus. A battery electric bus. They'll be sold in the UK, Ireland, and Europe. Did I mention they were battery electric? Sorry, I did, didn't I?
So here we go again. A couple of chargers in Addis or something. I bet I got that wrong. One city in Ethiopia. A couple of AC chargers on St. Helena Island. And now we've got less battery electric heavy vehicles in all of Ireland. That's IRE land, not an island. But you can count them on one hand, and it's world news for him because that's the barrow he pushes. And isn't he smug about it?
And while I'm on the topic of buses, there are now 1,397 battery electric buses servicing the people of London. But to put those numbers into a kind of balanced perspective, as of 2022, so things will have moved on a lot since then, there were approximately 455,500 pure electric city buses operating in Chinese cities. It doesn't matter how you spin it, the Chinese are streaking ahead while the Americans ram the anchors into the ground and make sure nothing new gets developed. Isn't that lovely?
Putting it into perspective, his way. Lies, damn lies and statistics, I say. Now, I crunched the numbers on how many Neo battery swaps there have been made per person in China. Now, I know not every Chinese person drives a car, let alone an EV, even though he raves on about how many of them do. But what I was doing was give another perspective. And for this one, I'm going to have to look at how many battery electric buses there are in China per person for a bit of a better perspective, you might say. Because you can't compare how many buses in China with their population with how many buses in London and the population of London. That's a case of lies, damn lies, and statistics. He does it all the time.
Next story. Here's my opinion of combustion engines. They're amazing. No, they're the result of over 100 years of refinement, tweaking, clever improvements, and amazing manufacturing efficiency, making them cheap to turn out. But essentially, the underlying technology, the physics of exploding a vaporized liquid within a sealed cylinder is exactly the same now as it was 120 years ago. Now, you could try to argue the same with electric motors. The designs of very early electric motors from 150 years ago are very recognizable today. Except we have seen massive improvements in electric motors in the last 10 years specifically. Really deep, profound innovation, which changes the landscape and makes them smaller, lighter, and obviously much more efficient. And now, out of jolly old England, comes a very new electric motor, the donut. Oh, donuts.
I was never going to leave this article out because it's one of the best face pulls he ever makes. Now, I wanted to show you what an absolute ingrate he is for the ICE engine. And he started by reading somebody else's article and then switched to his barrow. And I have already put up a large black and white text box that explains why I think he's an ingrate and is pushing his own barrow. It's not just unethical, it's dumb to do it. It's dumb to try. But I'm not going to go any more into him being such a cretin for his disdain for ICE engines. I want to talk about the donut motor.
Donut. Yes, the new donut motor can produce over 850 horsepower but weighs a mere 40 kilos or 88 pounds. In comparison, to produce 850 horsepower using a petrol combustion engine, you'd need a big lump weighing in at excess of 340 kilograms or 750 pounds. The electric motors from this British startup were on display at the recent Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. I've attended this event a couple of times a few years back, and it is insanely big. So the fact that this tiny electric motor has garnered any press attention shows what a big step it represents. The reason the motor is donut-shaped is because it's specifically designed to be built into the wheel of a vehicle, thereby removing the need for complex, expensive and energy-sapping transmission systems. There's loads of problems with in-wheel motors, often due to the excess weight, but they're talking about a much lighter, smaller and more powerful motor. The company makes a wide range of these motors, from small ones for drones to chunky ones for cars and trucks. However, the point is, these new designs and new technologies are changing the way we think about motors and the machines that move us and the goods we need. We are no longer stuck with having to make room for a massive, lumpy, single block of dirty metal, inefficient combustion engine built into the vehicle, taking up so much room and adding so much weight, so heavy. We will hopefully be reporting in more detail on their donut motors later this year.
I have written comments on my Aptera videos and other pro-Aptera videos where I'm not blocked about the donut motor. Once again, I'll leave some of this to text boxes, but I do want to cover the donut motor in a bit more detail, so I think this will be the last item on part 2. If this donut motor is half as good as they say it is, I have come up with a solution, and that is, and this solution has been written down in comments weeks ago, that solution is to put the donut motor in where an engine is supposed to go, in the body, and not in the wheels, thereby solving the weight problem. And I'll tell you why. It doesn't matter if you've cut the motor down to 40 kilograms or something like that. Weight in wheels is measured in grams. That is, you replace steel wheels for alloy wheels to save a matter of grams, not 40 kilograms at a time. So the donut motor in the wheels is still too detrimental for the ride and handling of any vehicle. It makes any sort of speed unsafe for the vehicle. But if it's that much more powerful, then it's worth replacing your standard inline piston engine ICE machine. And so why not whack it under the hood and then inside gears, a gear ring, and that gear ring is connected to the drive system that will turn the wheels. Now, yes, we've got a drive system, but who cares? If the motor is making that much more power, it can easily handle a little bit of power loss that is inherent in drive systems that connect to the wheels. It's such a simple solution, I don't want to take any credit for the idea. Lots of people would probably think of it, but I haven't heard any as yet. And Rob had a chance, but I think it's beyond him. By all means, if the donut motor is superior, use it, but don't misuse it. Don't put it in the wheels. Put it in the body of the car, put gears around it, and connect those gears to the normal, I don't know what they call it, but the drive system that goes between power source and the road. The usual drive shafts and constant velocity joints, they're not going to chew up all that extra power. You see, I've got no argument about using battery electric power sources, and am happy to help wherever possible. Well, I rushed the last one out so fast, I neglected to say, that's all for me. So this time, that's all for me. For part 2, not sure how long part 3 is going to take, or if I even do one. Bye for now. Stay safe.